to make a presentation on town activities in the lake. And before I get started, I just wanted to say something about this picture. It's a nice picture of the town councilmen, including Dean Slocum over here. And I just want to point out, I know that that looks a little wider than everybody else, but it has more to do with the angle. But you can draw your own conclusions. So yeah, so let's talk about the weed harvesting data. We took out, we spent 111 hours taking out about 52 loads, which our best estimate is that translates to 15,000 pounds per load or 394 tons. Jim Cunningham helped me with this presentation. He's a pretty smart guy. And we tried to get a figure on what does that mean in terms of phosphorus. And the figures are kind of all over the boards. But I think the purpose of harvesting is more for clearing the lake of the weed for recreation. And any phosphorus we get is sort of a bonus. But I think we could agree that we probably took a fair amount of phosphorus out. So that's sort of a bonus. This shows the GPS tracking information. Where did the boat travel? And you can see up here is really concentrated on the north end, some over here, and also over here. And contrary to what you might have heard, we did not harvest any weeds on East Lake Road, but when we removed the lake, somebody probably left on the GPS. We have conveyors at the north end and the south end, and we have one conveyor, I should say, that gets moved for efficiency. So we'll harvest at the north end for several days and then go to the south end. Harvesting costs. This figure here represents what we paid for the harvester. This is our third year. So this year, this is what our costs were for just the harvester. We spent $36,000 for employees. We had some minor repairs. So a total cost of about $85,000 for harvesting. We had 120 benthic mats that we rented out, 20 of which came, the town rented out. And these green areas represent where we cannot put mats because the DEC says these are wetlands, which I kind of don't get because I thought the whole lake was wet, but apparently we can't put them right there. So, all right. So Thad Yorks did a study on our tributaries. What we're looking for, and Thad, you can chime in if I don't get this right, but what we're looking for is some red flags. We're taking samples. There were 175 samples taken from 45 locations, and what we're looking for is some red flags. Do we have some big spikes in phosphorus? And if so, maybe we should do something about it. So they were taken at different times of the year in the same locations. So this is the graph that we came up with to show that. And lo and behold, we did see a big spike here and a couple of other places where there were some big spikes. And before we jump to any conclusions, there could be problems with the lab, or there could be a sampling error. So we have to kind of duplicate this and see. But it could be something as simple as a broken pipe in a septic system that's near a tributary. So each of these represents a different culvert or stream, and I can't tell you exactly where they are, but did I get that okay?
Yep, they're all around the lake.
What's that?
All around the lake, every surface water we could find.
Okay.
That's what's there.
Okay, so the HAB alert process. So what do we do if somebody sees an HAB? What we mean is blue-green algae. And Elizabeth DiGiacomo and Bill Carr are really good at identifying this visually. So if they see it and they think it's blue-green, if it's an HAB, it probably is. So at that point, we close the beach. We're only talking about the swimming areas, Willowbank and Lakeland Park. So if we see it, we close it down. And so they make a visual observation. And if it's closed, we have an email blast that we can send out to everybody who signed up for it. They're CLA members and anybody who wanted to be on the list. It could be a fisherman in DeWitt who wants to know. It could be anything. And so we send out, it gets in the paper, it's on the town website, and we let everybody know. The health department gets in the act. We send a sample out to Albany, and if they, usually the turnaround time is about 5 to 6 days. If it's a 4th of July weekend, it might take longer, unfortunately. And then we have to send another sample out to clear the beach that the outbreak is over. The problem is probably the outbreak would be over anyway, but we have to go through this process. We had 3 closures this year. These are the dates. But I think it's fair to say if we had 3 events at swimming areas, probably we saw many, many times that throughout the lake. But we're only concerned with the public swimming areas. I mean, I shouldn't say we're not concerned anywhere else, but that's where the health department comes in. The DEC through CSLAP has a program where they take samples and they compile this list of outbreaks for lakes in Madison County. 5 out of the last 7 years, we have had confirmed cases. The HT means highly toxic and S means suspicious. We did have a weevil study this year, and we put weevils that we were hoping they would get established, and apparently these creatures eat the milk whale. Unfortunately, it was pretty much of a failure. The panfish, bluegills probably ate all of them, and so we didn't harvest in that area next year. We've discontinued this, the study's over, and we're going to start harvesting there. This will be a treatment year, and I think Bob is going to be talking about that later, but we will be meeting with in Cortland. We'll be, probably Tom Driscoll and myself will be meeting with farmers who use irrigation downstream. We have to set up a system for them. And the town is budgeted for $135,000 for the lake, which includes the renovating. So that's just, the renovate is just a part of that, but as you saw the other figure on harvest. So I think that's it. So the questions are coming at the end, or?
Anybody got any quick questions for Jimmy?
Well, one question, Jimmy. The harvesting, the money spent on harvesting this year, be curious as to last year. Did we spend a lot more, a little more?
I don't know the answer to that. I know this was not a big year for weeds, but the $48,000 is a fixed cost. That's going to happen for the next 4 years.
But the number of hours will vary.
Yeah, the number of hours will vary. We had some personnel problems with the highway department. We were down 2 men, and so the harvester sat there for a couple of weeks. But fortunately, it was not a busy year. All the weeds on the north end, anyway, this year went to Warren Jones's farm, which is really close. And I happen to rent that farm, so next year, if you buy your pumpkins, hopefully the phosphorus will be.
All right.
So, was there another question?
Thank you. Just for curiosity's sake, sometimes when I go to the lake, there'll be what I call pollen on top of the water. How do you really differentiate pollen and event? They look very similar.
I would think that Bill Carr is really good at, he looks at it. I asked him, and he said when he sees it, he can pretty much tell. And the problem is the turnaround. 5 to 6 days is a long time to get an answer, but that's the way it works, and there's nothing we can do about that. Does somebody else get a better answer on that, the pollen?
I just recommend go to this website. We have great pictures. I mean, it is
It's very distinct.
That, the picture that we had before
I can put it back up.
showed it, but supposedly, I've never seen it, so I'm not really much of an expert, but it's supposed to look like green paint.
Just a comment. It seems like if we're spending $33,000, I think the number was, for employee wages for 111 hours of work time, it sure doesn't seem very efficient. And I just question, the question would be is, in these off years, the treatment plans that we've had seem like there was a lot more cutting going on. And I know there were some issues this year with people, but is there a plan to review that going forward? Because, again, one, I don't think was very effective this year, and number two was it seems like it's very expensive.
Yeah, I haven't been able to I didn't break that down, so.
He's not moving the mouse, so.
What's that?
$328 an hour to harvest, that's what the employee cost.
Yeah, that does sound a little crazy,
That
doesn't it?
seems, yeah, I want that job.
I'll ask the question. I'll ask the questions. I didn't, Jim?
That's
That's a couple of employees, and that includes the benefit package as well. So it sounds expensive, but this boat is, I used to run the harvester on the lake, and it's a real slow process. And when you fill it up and you're halfway down the lake, you got to truck all the way back down to the conveyor.
It's still
So-
per hour now.
Yeah, but the 120 hours are actual cutting time on the boat, so. You know, the employees do a lot of things that aren't in sync with that hour meter. So they're hauling it to a farmer, and that's not.
Dumping it.
In the hours, that's not the hours.
Cutting time,
Cutting
cutting time,
time.
which is even that.
Thank you.
That makes no sense.
Okay, is there any other questions?
Still a lot of money.
Hope not. Yes.
I guess, Jimmy, it would be useful for people to know how we tailor make it each year. When we have a treatment year, we definitely don't go around the lake harvesting everywhere. And so the treatment time on the water will be significantly reduced next year if we do.
You mean the harvester?
The harvester treatment, or the harvester usage will be markedly down next year when we treat. This year was kind of something intermediate. And then last year, or the year before when we did treat, the harvester was out very rarely.
Yeah.
The year before that,
Incredible amounts of.
renovate treatment, the harvester was all the time out on the lake.
Yes, and I see it because I see the weeds, you know, when they're dumping it. There was just incredible amounts of weeds out there.
So I guess the take home is that we do try to help work with the town and tailor make how much the harvester is going to be out there.
Is that it?